just going to start with the slide that Helen showed at the. It's not on. Oh, I'm not sharing my screen. That's why.
There's someone drinking beer in front of the screen. That's about it.
Can you guys see that online now?
Yep.
Good. All right. So I know it's probably a little bit hard to see in the room to see those various different things, but the what we just wanted to go through again really briefly was the industry feedback that we received at the start of this program in terms of things that they wanted us to do. So the first of those, updating compilations of open file exploration data. I think we just had about an hour's worth of download on the great strides that have been made in that area. Atlas of existing deposits and their footprints we've talked about. Geophysical surveys, including ground gravity, spatial compilations, high resolution magnetic and radiometric data, innovative geochemical exploration undercover. We heard about that today. Regional structural stratigraphic framework studies. We've talked about a number of those. I won't go through all of these, the drill core for the major deposits and the geochem toolkit. So use of new core-based hyperspectral tools. We've certainly done some of that. So I won't go through all of these, but I guess what I wanted to show is that I think that the program really has tried to deliver on a lot of the things that, or at least address a lot of the concerns that were raised at the start of the program based on industry feedback. So what I was going to do now was, I guess, pull in a couple of people who've been involved from the start, and someone else who's been more involved recently. So I think most of you would no doubt know Trevor Shaw, and probably most of you would know Mike Whitbread, who's, oh, there he is. Yep. I don't know how to make two people spotlighted in Zoom. That'll be a future learning for me. Yeah, so we've got Trevor, we've got Mike Whitbread from Rio, and Richard Scott from Oz Minerals, who has become very involved in this region and done a lot of work, or been to a lot of our webinars more recently and been heavily involved. So I thought these were three industry people who would be fairly familiar with what we've been doing, who could give some of their thoughts from different standpoints on the program, and most importantly, I think what we could potentially do next. But what we want to do as part of this panel as well is to pull in feedback from the audience as well, and other voices, not just the people we've asked and who've agreed in a kindly way to serve on the panel. So thanks for each of you for agreeing to be here. I'll start with you, Trevor. And I know you've been involved in many of these initiatives and been working in this region for a long time. And I just wanted to ask you what stands out for you from this particular program in terms of outcomes that can aid discovery.
I'm sure, Mike, you'd agree. We often follow each other. We see each other. A lot of these Amira things, including Uncover. And I remember years ago going to one of those, and it was the Uncover initiative. And you can imagine there's four posters on the wall, and everyone had to put up an idea of what they wanted. They felt it was the most prescient thing we needed to do for Queensland or for Australia, to unlock Undercover. And we all dutifully did that. We put all our slips up there, and there were 6 themes, and 2 of them in particular one was education and knowledge transfer, and then the last one was commercialization and patents and that type of thing. We all ignored those, and everything. It was those four things. We all put our little dots on there as what's the most important. We came up with a very similar slide that you just put up. It was the most important thing. And it was almost as if they were purposely put off to the side. I remember this 5 and 6, and the education one was almost annexed off to the side, like these were special, but not all that important. And then they languished. There's two things I noticed out of that for this, and this is where I'm leading with it, is the difference is through yourself, Rick and Helen, you've actually worked in partnership to make this happen and make it consistent. And you made deliverables that were very early on in the piece. So you actually very cleverly made sure that the database that was being put together and the atlas that was being put together was delivered early. So we had engagement as a group of industry early. And then I noticed that you actually dedicated some time, which was, it was often 3 or 4 hours in an afternoon to go through geoscience analysts and actually go through all those solids and the data packs that you actually put together. That gave opportunity for people like-minded people to actually sit down and do that. I went and did other things, but there was plenty of other people that were involved, and they had their computers dutifully out. And that was a massive difference. And what I saw was that we had industry engaged. We had you're not transferring that knowledge. You're actually networking really very effectively. And in particular for GSQ, what that meant was you were actually networking with the evolving group of industry that was churning, and new people were emerging. And so what I've also noticed, and this is something I'd say to Tony, is that has improved the engagement of GSQ overall. Does that make sense? So that is probably the most important thing that you guys have done very effectively. And as an industry participant, I'm looking at that going, that's fantastic. Because my final thing was when, you go to a PMD CRC, I remember that years ago, a 7-year program, and you'd have some updates, but it was as if they left it for the last hurrah, where they blew your hair back in your last presentation, and you came out going, what the hell just happened? And that's the problem, because it all came at you in one day, and then you went, well, that's too complicated. And then that report sits on a shelf. Whereas this stuff, all the way through, we've been engaged all the way along the process. And that atlas is something that we can refer to. I tell you what, as a junior, we're not a junior, but as a junior, if we're coming into Queensland for the first time, that is so valuable, so incredibly valuable. If we're going into another state, I wish we had that. So I think that is going to be something that's enduring. All the references that are in are going to be enduring. That's really the crux of it.
Great. Thanks, Trevor. So moving on to Mike, and I wanted to start with this question. We can move on. I know you'd mentioned some other things you wanted to talk about as well, but as a geochemist, I hope you don't mind getting pigeonholed as a geochemist. I'm interested to hear your thoughts on the products and insights arising from the program. So what stands out for you as having made an impact in that area?
Yeah, okay. I do have some geophysics stuff that I did want to mention as well, because most of the people I work with geophysics.
Feel free. There's no rules around here. Everybody's got a beer except me.
Look, for us, data is king, right? So it's all around the data that you can deliver to us, pre-competitive. And some of the feedback we've been getting from the team really is around some of your initiatives have allowed us to, have made it easier for us to convince our management to try new things or collect more data, because we've got the data that the survey's been collecting and this program's been collecting as context for it. So I could talk particularly from the geochemical point of view, the mineral chemistry and the mineralogy work that's linked to other data types. So a lot of the talks from CSIRO in particular, I'll call them out as something that I thought, for me, is the way forward. It's bringing different data types together and understanding, using assays and spectral and other things to predict the mineralogy, anchoring that, and then being able to predict it out onto larger volumes of data. And you've sort of set the stage for that in the region, and I think that's been really powerful. And so yeah, it's that data collection piece that helps us. You know, some of the surface orientation data. I know that Joe and Co were quite keen on demonstrating some of that. You know, these various leaches that you can perform on surface data, but when you get into deeper covered areas, it is pretty challenging, right? So I think I thought the hydro talk was actually pretty good and gives us an idea of the limitations of hydro data, but it gets you into an area, but it doesn't really target anything. So a lot of that mineral chemistry and the mineralogy work, once you've got a hole somewhere, that allows you, in combination with all that other context that you've done in the atlas and all the background data that's been collected from drill holes, you know, allows us to make a hell of a lot more value out of any drilling that we eventually do. And so in the context of other things that are pretty useful for us is the depth to cover. You know, if you want to help industry work out where they might go, if you want to encourage them to take more risk, then knowing where you have reasonably shallow cover that you could try surface data sets on is pretty important. It's critical, really, for us to say, okay, we can take a punt here and try surface data sets, but in these other areas, we're going to have to rely on geophysics and other tools to get us in. And that's really critical information, right? That really helps us. And so, yeah, I guess from a geochem point of view, that's, you know, they are the things that add the most value to me. But if I can just paraphrase my geophysical colleagues.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they love the geophysical surveys that you've collected, right? And you know, particularly the 100 meter space mag. You know, they just want more of that, right? So collect more of that data. It's the stuff that, you know, I guess this is a question around where the surveys boundaries and where industry's responsibility come in terms of data collection. But if you can set the scene for us and collect an appropriate spacing and encourages people then to go and infill, I think that's really, really useful information. And you know, everyone, I'm just looking at the notes, the plethora of notes I've got from my geophysical colleagues here, and it's all around, you know, the mag, the AEM, just more of it. Keep doing it. You know, looking forward really adds value for us. Makes it easier for us to say, look, we can see something of interest here. Let's go spend some money. We'll maybe increase the density of that information collection and work from there. Whereas before, it would have all been a bit hard, and other jurisdictions might have been more attractive to us. Because if we were going to fly a survey here or there, where's the least risk for us technically? You know, we might circle back to things we want you to do in the future, Rick, later if you want, and so you can move on to anyone else.
Yeah, no, that'd be great. Thanks.
Okay, yes.
Thanks a lot, Mike. And I'll move on to you, Richard. I know you've well, correct me if I'm wrong, but you've come into this a little bit later, but I think brought as part of your role, brought a real data science focus to the work that's going on and how you're making use of it. And I was just interested to hear your thoughts on the products and insights arising from the program, I guess, from the standpoint of a data scientist, and, you know, what's made an impact in that area.
Yeah, well, okay, I agree with the geophysics comments to start with. So more of that's always good. And like, I guess, a different end of the scale, that MT work you've been doing and people like Janelle have been contributing to, like, across the country, I guess, that's certainly helpful for us, like looking at other states as well. So definitely appreciate that kind of thing. But I'd say, like, at a more meta level, perhaps, like, commitment to information management process is pretty crucial to get things working well and continue to work well into the future. And we don't know what people may come up with that they want to look at in 10 years or 20 years or 30 years when we need even more electric whatevers. So you've got if you've got that foundation for all your data right now, that's going to save a lot of people a lot of time and a lot of money, and probably let them come up with new things that they wouldn't have been able to do if they had spent time, you know, like wrangling the stuff into formats they need. So that's really important. I've been really impressed with that part of things. So, like, that's like a general level. So you want discoverability, you want accessibility, you want repeatability, and you want speed. And so like an open data platform like you've got sort of like gives you all those things, and it requires like, I think I just got the tail end of what Matt was talking about, RESTful APIs earlier, having that sort of like simple interface to things where you aren't like hacking JavaScript bits of web forms out to try and like download things is great. And that like makes life much easier in that sort of space. I guess like general large scale regional compilations are also really useful as like a base starting point. So you've got that, and then you can say, right, we need to fill in this part here. And Mike was like pointing towards that sort of thing as well. So those in a big package, so you don't have to collate them yourself, and someone can just grab them and look at them easily. And if they've got one on their work desktop and they've got the link to it, they can download it when they're out in the back of a Land Rover somewhere if they want to, like when they've hooked into the pub Wi-Fi because they wanted to check something again, because they don't have to like go and search through some interface or find where that was. So it's like easy to do. So I guess like a whole commitment to process, I would say like you have to summarize the most important thing from a data science point of view. Like map-based interfaces to find things are great for like one-off uses or for just like people looking for one thing or whatever. But if you're working across like whole states or whole countries and trying to do large-scale processing, they don't quite cut it. But if you've got an API that you can say, query for everything, get me everything, and automate. So that's my basic overview, I think, from takeaway from the last few years of everything. As you said, like I started 2018, so you're ahead of me there.
Great. Oh, well, thanks very much for that. So the reason I asked Trevor and Mike and Richard to sort of be on a panel is that I knew that they'd have something really good to say, but I didn't mean therefore that I was going to let everyone else off the hook. I don't know. Did you want to comment on anything, Helen, before we move on? Oh, you don't have a mic. Where's the other mic? Yeah, there had to be a mic there.
No, I'd just say thank you. Thank you for the feedback. I know there's more to come, so we'll keep it going. But also part of the New Discovery program was that we had an industry advisory panel to keep us on track, to make sure that the projects we were working on were useful, valid, and relevant, and achieving what they said they were going to do in the first place. And that's included Trevor, it's included Mike, it's included Mark Whittle, who was here. I'm not sure if he's still here, behind the panel, behind the column, and Richard, of course, and I know Neil from Anglo was on it, and a few others. Glenn, who's not here, and Rob Rutherford. That's Rutherford. Right. Yep, also not here.
Rob said he wanted to be here, but couldn't for obvious reasons.
So look, a big range from juniors to majors, different focuses, but really key for us to have that engagement and that ground truthing or reality check. So really appreciate you being involved every step of the way and giving us honest and real feedback. So it's good.
Thanks. Okay, yeah, that's what I was going to say now is that, yeah, could we have is there anybody who wants to comment on the same, on the same question about things that stand out for you from the program or anything you want to comment on from the audience? So
yeah, I'm quite new to this community, and I would like to share with my observation. I think that the role of geological survey is just to connect the academia with the exploration end. And it's exactly what happened here. And it's really nice to see how you connected. This is the great knowledge which is coming from the universities and from research organization directly into the industry. And this is the most rewarding, I think, event I've been in the last year or so. And also another point I wanted to see, I see the range of, experience and in terms of exploration, young people who just started their exploration career and also young researchers in the same room. So we have a legacy, this legacy pass from, from more experienced exploration people to the younger generation. So it's just my observation, and I think it's very rewarding. Thank you.
Thanks. Does anybody else, before we move on to, I've got some more things I wanted to ask our panel, but does anybody else want to point out anything that stood out for them as part of this program, or could be an industry representative, could be a researcher. If not,
I just fill in on one thing. With respect to, my geophysics got in my ear as well, so which is fantastic. But it was all good. But really, Mike hit on something. Where is that boundary? Well, it's interesting in Queensland. I think part of it is we're really seeing one of the tightest tenure situations we've seen in many decades, actually, right now in Northwest Queensland. There's not much space on the map left. But what we're also still seeing is a fragmented postage stamp situation. And that actually starts to hold back companies from being able to do those more regional surveys. If they can't put the joint ventures together and or the land package together to do a sizable regional survey, they'll often just go, oh, it's just too hard. So we should be congratulated for doing the 100 meter, I think 100 meter spacing. Can't remember what it was, but it was quite a tight spacing. It's also a spacing that's prevailing in most of the industry surveys that we're doing, and now we're tightening it right up. And you're seeing that down in New South Wales as well. They did a massive one just after we did one, and so watch that. But that is something we'd like to see more of, and that is really the tipping point where you're starting to see companies not doing it because they have those small tenures, they can't put it together. That's a pre-competitive, opportunity where the whole industry can certainly benefit, particularly the junior sector. And airborne falcon is a good one to think about too.
okay, well, we might actually. I'll move to you now, Mike, and ask the question. What would you like to see us do next to aid discovery in this region and more generally in Queensland?
Right, so I've got two sets of requests here. There's the geophysics lot, and then there's the rest of us. So I'll start with the geophysicists, so they can't say I'm biased to geochemistry. But look, they just want more mag, they want more AM, and one of the requests is around updated ground gravity compilation. So they know there's a lot of work there, but it's due for an update, and it's relatively cheap, and you've already got the data. So so I'd be happy to point you to the guy that asked that particular request, if you like, from our point of view. And we're always after more value-added products, right? So you've done some work on the seismic, and it'd be great to see some of those products made available digitally so that they could use them as a starting point or a comparative point. And it leads into, I guess, to one of the, criticisms that we would place in the project is around making the data available earlier, even if you're going to work on it yourselves. So as soon as you get the data and you're happy with the quality, even if you're working on your own products, we would love to see that data made available to industry as soon as you can, just so that we can work our magic on it while you work your magic on it. And 6 months can be a long time, right? It could be the difference between a budget cycle window or not. So we'd encourage you, the survey, to consider that feedback. But one of the other things we would really like you to consider is you're in a unique position with the core library and all the materials that are difficult for us to access, is to continue to work on scanning and mineralogy and mineral chemistry and assay compilations of that, and not just in the areas around mines, but also in areas where no one's interested at the moment, so that we can understand background a bit better. And maybe one of the ideas there is if you could act as a hub, say, for a scanning system in Mount Isa. I know you did that before with TrueScan, or thought about it with TrueScan once. there may be an avenue there for the survey to act as the cornerstone of a scanning effort, and then bringing the companies in to put in their dollars on the back of that, because you can save us some mobilisation and give us scale. So, going forward, it's maybe an idea that we could discuss and see if it can work for everyone involved. And, just from a GChem point of view, more data from areas that are nowhere near anything. So, the surface data surveys that I alluded to earlier with partial leaches, they're notorious for being spiky data. But if you've collected more of that data over areas that are not of interest and they don't have similar magnitude spikes, and it becomes a lot more compelling. Whereas at the moment, I don't think we have that information. And I'd encourage you also to improve the depth to basement models. The more you can do there, you might be able to say, hey guys, this ground that we thought had 500 metres of cover, we think actually has 25. Who wants to have a crack at it? That would be the kind of thing that would get industry taking notice pretty quickly. So I think I'll stop there. I've probably hogged a fair bit of time, but hopefully that's useful.
I think Matt wanted to comment on the geophysics.
Yeah, I guess it's been a lot of commentary on geophysics now, and I think Helen's favourite catcall every time we talk about future money is more geophysics. I think it's something we're going to continue doing. Obviously, it's been well received by the industry. I'm really glad to hear that feedback around it. Moving on to airborne EM, moving on to AGG, continuing compilations of high resolution mag is going to be part of our future for a long time, I think. I guess on that thing, I have a couple of comments around the CEI program. Now is a great avenue to do those collaborative groups. If you get 3 or 4 companies that are keen on improving data quality and they want to look at doing a regional survey over a tract of land, and they can put a CEI application together, that means you can target where you're looking for and put it in that competitive process. But moving forward as well, talk to us about it. Talk to us about where you want to see surveys, where you want to see data, where you want to see new things, whether it's geophysics, whether it's geochemistry, whether it's more core scanning, and whether you're Mike or whether you're a junior company or whether you're anyone, please come in, come to Brisbane, set up emails with us, set up chats with us. We're always open to talk, always open to look at new opportunities and new avenues. And yeah, I think Helen probably wants to talk about some of your comments on the core library as well.
I would also just add, thanks, Mike, that the AGG survey that was completed last week, yeah, so everyone keeps asking about it, it's finished flying last week. That was flown, I'm not going to say which company it was, but it was flown at the request of a company. So we will absolutely do it. It might have been, 2 years since that initial request was made. It's government. It's not as fast as industry, but we will do our best to, if we have a request from industry, we will absolutely do our best to make it happen. Then when you were talking about the having a scanning hub at the Mount Isa Core Library, Mike, I just wanted to know more about that. Did you mean XRD or XRF? Like what kind of scanning?
Something that has high resolution photography and some sort of something else. In as many other sensors as you can stick on it. I don't care which one, just start doing something.
Yeah,
right. Okay, something. Okay. No, that's good. That's good. Well, the core library in Mount Isa is going to undergo a major renovation over the next 6 months. So part of that will include enclosing the core viewing area and making it air conditioned. But also expanding that and adding more, little conference facilities and all sorts of things. But it worked really well having TrueScan up there for a while. We would like to, have Minilyze back, because I think we got better results out of Minilyze than TrueScan. Don't say that out loud. I hope there's no TrueScan people here. But HighLogger is not mobile necessarily, but there's alternatives. Core Scan, there's other alternative technologies. So absolutely, core scanning is really, really valuable, and we will continue doing that. We've got Siraj here, who runs the HighLogger down in Brisbane. One of the projects that didn't get any airtime because it's not under the SREP funding bucket that we were talking about this this workshop is our regional prospectivity project, and that is using, thanks to South 32 and other companies, using all the regional drilling that people might have collected over a huge area that's not necessarily, and I've talked to Trevor about this as well, it's not necessarily near any deposits, but it's specifically in areas that are undercover. And that's something where we want to take the drilling, take all of the information that industry has spent a fortune collecting, but has walked away from, gives us the opportunity to say, okay, let's go and scan the core. Let's look at the assays, what's missing, what can we add to that? What can we reanalyze? What can we focus on? Can we do the full litho-geochem type thing? Can we add some geochronology? Can we get some structural information? So then that's starting to build that whole data set of information of the basement undercover, which I think is basically what you were talking about, Mike, in terms of getting that more regional data, getting the basement, the background information that helps you identify anomalies versus just, just a rock. And then also a part of that is obviously expanding the depth to basement work that Dom and Joe started. So it's definitely on our radar, and it's in progress. But we need to put a few more resources to that, and it's part of the plan for January or February. We're going to have a big project meeting about that. So it's good to hear you say that, because it gives us more impetus and a bit more urgency around that project.
If I can just make one comment on the scanning. If you end up doing any spectral scanning, we would like to see thermal included. So I think the high logger, as an example, is a good, in some respect,
we need to make the high logger mobile.
Yeah, don't just stick to swear. I think I think Jess Kronberg made that point as well, pretty well. So
Good.
2 cents.
That's good.
All the wavelengths.
Good. All right.
All
Thanks.
the wavelengths.
We might. So Richard, I'm going to ask you the same question, but I'm going to say more geophysics is taken. So you have to do something else. So the question again.
Okay, just make me a 3D geology model of all of Queensland.
Yeah, I'll vote for that. One thumbs
So
up.
that's one thing. I got a South Australian one, so I need a Queensland one. So
Yeah.
got to catch up there.
Yeah.
Depth of basement modeling. You've talked working with other groups, and Helen was mentioning before, you can throw all that into trying that too. Like it doesn't. And you can look at a machine learning version or geophysics versions or geochemistry versions, or combine all of them into a hybrid something and see how it goes. But something better, and that's definitely on all the geologists' wish list, that's for sure. So more merged grids, that's always good, Matt. And data speed, get it to us. We're like grown-ups as such, we don't need it curated. So just like put it out there, and you can curate it and make it good later, but we can go through it as well. And we've noticed some things, like some of the geochemistry compilations appear to be missing information. We're not sure why, so maybe it's somewhere else. And so like we're saying, all the wavelengths, like all the elements. So like everything that's there, we want to look at. Don't like hold it back, because let people now or in the future make the decision of what they want to look at, and sort of working on the stuff.
Great. Thanks, Richard. I'll ask you the same question, Trevor. So what do you think? What would you like to see us do next?
Geez, I really did exhaust myself with the geophysics. I wanted that, and we got it. It looks like there's lots of support for that. One thing I can also say, there's always leading indicators with that type of thing. And when you see that you brought the exploration grants and you started to include geophysics, that has been taken up. I'm sure I did see that on the map. We have ourselves, and I think you'll see more of that. And I think that should be applauded, that you've extended it beyond just the drilling. This is a little off base, but what I'd really like to see the GSQ do more of, and even this type of forum. You've had 4 years, right, where we've been We've been putting information together. It was actually an opportunity to support universities from the point of view of providing honors projects. And that in itself would provide new blood that you could look for and pick the people you want as the future of GSQ, as well as for future PhDs and such. I was a product of such. I came through. I worked with the Geological Survey of Canada all the way through university. I loved it, and they're the reason I'm actually in exploration. And it's something that I lament that I don't see much of in Australia, and we should. There's no reason why we couldn't sponsor those honors projects, get theses coming through, that type of thing, because it's really nurturing the future. I'd like to see that.
I was just going to make a side comment, which was, which honor students are those? They all took jobs instead of doing honors.
I know, but the industry isn't always this ebullient. So
yeah. No, I know. So I'll open that same question to the audience. What should we do next? What would you like to see us do next? Anybody, but I'd like to particularly hear from industry, other industry voices maybe, and even maybe some of the people who are more kind of at the pointy end of their exploration efforts, more junior staff who are here, which is great to see. But Steve, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, Rick, I'm not
That's
sure
right.
I count as being the pointy end of exploration at the moment. But yeah, it was good to hear Richard ask for a 3D model of the whole of Queensland, because I think we can help with that. But one of the, Mount Isa province, Northwest Minerals province, is under 75% of cover. 75% of it is under cover. And moving forward, the long-term future of the industry is actually going to be working out how to explore deep cover. So I think, data sets for the future are things like seismic, which we have some, but we'd love to see more, but not seismic in the way that GA has done it in the past. I'd love to see seismic, which is deliberately optimized for the top 5 kilometers or 10 kilometers rather than the whole crust, because you lose a bit of data, you lose a bit of information when you try and shoot it for the full crust size. And then the other thing that I think we can all recognize is a huge problem, it's like a tsunami that's coming upon us, is all the geophysics courses have been cut from universities around the country. And it would be great if the survey can in some way begin to put pressure on universities to say, look, although this is not economic in your business model, we really need these graduates.
I was just going to say, it's clear from today's discussion, nobody wants any geophysics. So
it's possible you need to pressure people that aren't the survey to get that to happen as far as universities go to, or aren't universities. So that's what large companies can do if they see that as important.
Yeah, my point is probably coming from a point of vested interest after my presentation today, but I guess a comment about some of the vectoring work that's going on. I think in future I'd like to see a bit more scaling to the exploration problem that we're trying to solve. The program that you've put together has given such good data around known ore bodies for us to orientate off. But there's no point in finding that we can find these things from 5 kilometers away if we can drill hematite, magnetite from all the geophysics that you guys are going to provide us to get closer to that to begin with. So, then where do we go? What's a fertile system look like in its barren parts, if that makes sense?
Yep. Okay. Oh,
got some more over here.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah, I just had a few quick ones. One was about the mineral geochemistry. How can we make that more accessible and easier to access for most companies? It's not a simple, cheap, quick process.
Actually, Helen asked that I ask people to give their name so that the people online know who they are. So,
Simon Shakespeare.
thanks, Simon. Yeah.
The other one was, again, a bit of geophysics and integrated with the depth of cover. One of the things is, you know, we've got this vast tract of land through here that's actually pretty much outcrop, but on the flanks you have deepening cover. Can we look at integrating the depth of cover into the geophysical images as a package of images for general consumption? Just make it easy to, you know, consume that way. And again, I think the point was made about mineral systems versus mineral deposits. Where are the edges? When you're working undercover, you know, most companies, I think Anglo drilled 7, you know, deep holes. Most companies are not going to do that. They're going to drill 1 or 2 at the most. We really need to know if we are in those barren parts of a mineral system. Where are the edges? What is I think there's been great work done characterising ore deposits. A good idea what the alterations, things, but out at the margins, I think there's still work to do.
Yeah.
Atlas is a fantastic resource, and I think it's great to see the collaboration that's occurring. It's a really positive thing. We've got numerous universities, the government, private industry, all working together. It's something that's need to continue.
Great, thanks.
I have to say probably I'm biased because what I thought, but I think the example that Anglo showed by drilling these very deep holes based on a geophysical model that interpreted a geological model derived from a geological model that eventually did not come to be the right geological model. And I was emphasized we really need to kind of revise the geological models to to be more predictive what is happening undercover, and to try to understand the signature in geophysics of geology. We cannot understand the signature in geophysics using geophysics for undercover. We have to look at geophysics from the no exposed areas, have very good geological models that can be translated into geophysical models, and then the geophysical models can be translated into geological models undercover. Because if you explore, like in the example that Anglo had, you try to find an isostyle mineralization, and you think that you see in geophysics a basin, isostyle basin, but it's not there. You had a geological model that was wrong, I think. So we need better geological models. That's the point I want to make.
Yeah, thanks, Johan. That's good.
I think we got one more, but I think we need to bring back the GSQ drilling branch as well.
Thanks, Dave. Well, it's funny you say that.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, I just wanted to follow up on a few strands that have come up actually, and Richard was talking about the 3D model of Queensland, and when I was looking at Karen Connor's work yesterday in those seismic sections in the interpretation she's done and the Gidja structure and all these sorts of things, it really got me thinking about, we're all in the mineral system space these days, and we sort of know the tectonic setting and where we think deposits form in back arc basins or passive margins, etc. But what we really need to be doing is understanding where they are undercover, as Owen is saying. And then if you look at the drilling sort of stuff that was reported from Anglo this morning by Evelyn, we're starting to get those real pierce points in those big scale 3D models, drilling holes down under a kilometre of cover. So I guess it's just one thing that, it would be nice to be starting to pull together those big mineral systems models and 3D models on a very large scale so that we can be understanding where we sit within those tectonic settings under the deeper cover. Yeah, thanks.
Thanks, Paul. So I'm conscious of the fact that I'm actually flying out tonight, and my flight goes in one 1 hour and 20 minutes. And we're supposed to have gone till 5 minutes ago. So does anyone have anyone feel like they really, well, first of all, I want to thank Trevor and Mike and Richard for agreeing to be on the panel. So thanks very much to the three of you.